52 onwards. Hare Krishna Mataji, please take over the call.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Hare Krishna. Nice to be with everyone again. Before I start, I would like to ask for prayers for the devotees from Saranagati in Canada that have just had an extreme wildfire go through their whole community that's been there for almost 50 years, destroying at least 10 of the 25 houses that are there. No one has been injured. They did evacuate, but they don't know whose home, including my second son, whose home has been destroyed. So if you have a few moments after we finish, a few prayers on their behalf would be much welcome. Jai Radha Madhava Gopi Janabala Giridharadhari Yasaranandana Dajajanala Yamuna Tira Jaya Radha Sundari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Jai Om Vishnu Padma Mahansa Parva Jakacharya Ashtara Satis Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Padma Mahansa Parva Jakacharya Ashtara Satis Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Kurta Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sri Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Kangamaya Ki Jai. Yamuna Maya Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Srimati Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Ranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we are reading from the Srimad Bhagvatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, starting with text 53. Do I have my Sanskrit scholar?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
धर्मार्थं च कामं च नितरां चानुपूर्वशः प्रह्लादयोच्युतो राजन् प्रशितावनताय च. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. And I want to remind everyone to please mute so we don't hear conversations and coughing and backgrounds and stuff. That would be helpful. Dharmam, mundane occupational duty. Artam, economic development. Cha and Kamam, sense gratification. Cha and Nitram, always. Cha and Anupuvasa, according to order or from the beginning to the end. Praladaya, unto Prahlad Maharaj, Uchata, they spoke. Rajan, O king. Prashrita, who was humble. Avantaya, and submissive Cha also. Translation. Thereafter, Sanda and Amarka systematically and unceasingly taught Prahlad Maharaj, who was very submissive and humble, about mundane religion, economic development, and sense gratification. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. There are four processes of human society: Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, and they culminate in liberation. Human society must follow the process of religion to advance. On the basis of religion, one should try to develop his economic condition so that he can fulfill his needs for sense gratification according to the religious rules and regulations. Then liberation from material bondage will be easier to attain. That is the Vedic process. When one is above the stages of Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, one becomes a devotee. He is then on the platform from which he is guaranteed not to fall again to material existence. Yad gatva nan nirvatate. As advised in Bhagavad Gita, if one transcends these four processes, it is actually liberated, one engages in devotional service. Then he is guaranteed not to fall into material existence. Om Agana Timrandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. We're born in the darkness of ignorance, but our spiritual master is kindly opening our eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. So we offer our most humble and respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. I am going to read the next few verses. The teachers of Sanda and Amarka instructed Prahlad Maharaj in the three kinds of material advancement, called religion, economic development, and sense gratification. Prahlad, however, being situated above these instructions, did not like them, for such instructions are based on the duality of worldly affairs, which involve one in a materialistic way of life marked by birth, death, old age, and disease. Purport: the entire world is interested in materialistic way of life. Indeed, practically 99.9% of the people in the three worlds are uninterested in liberation or spiritual education. Only the devotees of the Lord, headed by such great personalities as Prahlad Maharaj and Narada Muni, are interested in the real education of spiritual life. One cannot understand the principles of religion while staying on the material platform. Therefore, one must follow these great personalities as stated in the Srimad Bhagvatam. Swayambhu Narada Shambhu Kumar Kapila Manu Prahlad Janaka Bhishma Alarvashika Ayam. One must follow in the footsteps of such great personalities as Lord Brahma, Narada, Lord Shiva, Kapila, Manu, and the Kumars, Prahlad Maharaj, Bhishma, Janaka, Bali Maharaj, Sukadeva Goswami, and Yamaraj. Those interested in spiritual life should follow Prahlad Maharaj in rejecting the education of religion, economic development, and sense gratification. One should be interested in spiritual education. Therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement is spreading all over the world, following the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaj, who did not like any of the materialistic education he received from his teachers. I actually am doing the next one too. When the teachers went home to attend to their household affairs, the students at the same age as Prahlad Maharaj would call him to take the opportunity of leisure hours for play. Purport: in tiffin hours, the hours when the teachers were absent from the classroom, the students called Prahlad Maharaj, wanting to play with him. As will be seen from the following verses, however, Prahlad Maharaj was not very much interested in playing. Instead, he wanted to utilize every moment for advancing in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, as indicated in this verse by the word Kshetra, at the opportune moment when it was possible to preach about Krishna consciousness, Prahlad Maharaj used the time as follows. So it was interesting to me that the word religion is coupled with sense gratification and moksha, economic development. So religion, economic development, and sense gratification. And I thought, well, to me, religion always meant my faith in God, my service to God, my, not exactly devotion, I guess, but it meant a good thing to me. And here it's kind of coupled with things that are not so important for spiritual advancement. So I looked into that a little bit because I thought it was interesting that the word religion, like if someone came up to me and said, "What is your religion?" I would say basically, I'm a Hindu, a Hare Krishna, Sanatana Dharma, that would be what I would answer. But here, religion seems to be coupled with something connected with materialism. So I went on to read a little bit. Prabhupada says, materialistic persons take to so-called religion to get some blessings so that they can improve their economic position and enjoy the material world through sense gratification. And I was thinking, well, so it kind of expands the topic of what religion in this case means. And we see in the history of Vyasadeva, he had written all of these Vedas and he wasn't satisfied. And then he understood from his teacher that because he hadn't glorified the character and pastimes of the personality of Godhead, that this is why he wasn't satisfied. So he went on with the Srimad Bhagvatam. And the famous verse in the Bhagavad Gita, 1866, Sarva Dharma Parichajya Mam Ekam Saranam Vraja Aham Tvam Sva Papebhyo Mokshayam Masucha. Okay, abandon. Krishna's telling Arjuna, abandon all the varieties of religion and just surrender to me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So in the purport, Prabhupada says the Lord has described various kinds of knowledge and processes of religion. Bhagavad Gita is such a great literature. I often think that's probably that and the Krishna book are all I should read because it would probably help me the most. It's like the basic. So the Lord has described various kinds of knowledge and processes of religion, knowledge of the Supreme Brahman, knowledge of the Super Soul, knowledge of different types of orders and statuses of social life, knowledge of the renounced order of life, knowledge of non-attachment, sense and mind control, meditation. He has described in so many different ways types of religion. Now, in summarizing Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that Arjuna should give up all those processes that have been explained to him. Then he should simply surrender to Krishna. That surrender will save him from all kinds of sinful reactions, for the Lord personally promises to protect him. In the 7th chapter, it was said that only one who has become free from all sinful reaction can take to the worship of Lord Krishna. Thus, one may think that unless he is free from all sinful reactions, he cannot take to the surrendering process. To such doubts, it is here said that even if one is not free from all sinful reactions, simply by the process of surrendering to Krishna, he is automatically freed. There is no need of strenuous efforts to free oneself from sinful reactions. One should unhesitatingly accept Krishna as the supreme savior of all living entities with faith and love. One should surrender to him. The process of surrender to Krishna is described in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Anyway, it goes on. It's a little lengthy there. I'll read a little. According to the devotional process, one should simply accept such religious principles that will lead ultimately to the devotional service of the Lord. So, in the original verse, it's talking somewhat about that the Sanda and Amarka were trying to teach Prahlad mundane religion so that he could increase his control, his sense gratification, his accumulation, his material life. And Prahlad, being a devotee who was, as we see by the end result of the whole story, when his father was killed by the merciful nails of Lord Nrsimhadev, that he asked Prahlad, "What can I do for you? What do you want?" And Prahlad said, "No, I don't want anything. I just want you. I just want to be your servant. I just, don't ask me for anything. I'm not a merchant. It's not a mercantile exchange here. I'm trying to serve you and love you." So we see that Prahlad was actually a very advanced personality. He wasn't just a good person. He was actually a devotee. He was devoted to the Lord. And that's what we are given. And our Hare Krishna movement has grown in such a capacity that we have to be mindful that what we're doing is for the end result of devotional service. We have all these, I don't want to say rituals, but we have all of these activities that we have in our temples of, different kinds of puja and classes, but we have to be careful because there are Bhagvatam reciters that recite Bhagvatam with no devotion, no end result to please the personality of Godhead or the devotees, but they're trying to make money. So that is somewhat a materialistic religion. So in our case, I was thinking last night, Prabhupada, when he came, Krishna was so perfect with Srila Prabhupada. Krishna took everything away from Srila Prabhupada. All he had was his devotion. He took all of his wealth, he was this simple elderly sannyasi living in the Radha Damodar temple with basically nothing, a struggle to get to Delhi. He'd walk to save a few paisa. so that he could print books in order to try and follow the instruction of his spiritual master. And I know Prabhupada has said, simply by following the instruction, the specific instruction of the spiritual master, one makes advancement. So Srila Prabhupada, there he is, just hovering on 70 years old. I mean, anyone who's 70 in this group knows the difference in the body. By the time you get 70, you're in a different realm. So to think that someone would get on a cargo ship that took like more than 30 days to cross an ocean. And here's someone who's been living in a very beautiful, quaint, devotional town. Then it was so simple. In Vrindavan, and we get on a cargo ship and go across the ocean to all places, New York City. New York City's like crazy. It's so busy, it's so congested, it's so polluted. It's so the opposite of Vrindavan. And here's Srila Prabhupada coming over with nothing, no money. He didn't have any money. He didn't know anyone in New York. I mean, that's unfathomable. How could anybody do that? And all he brought was books. He was on a mission. He was following his faith in Krishna, his faith in the instruction of his spiritual master, to try and please Krishna. And he prayed before he went into New York, in the Boston Harbor. He wrote those beautiful prayers. Krishna, I don't know why you've brought me here to this place. It's such a degraded place. You know, all we have to do is walk down the street in a big city, or open a magazine, or look at the news to see the kind of people, the mentality of the people, the lack of leadership in the government. What is the government? Look at some of the people running for office. I mean, look at how degraded. The leaders are not after the actual long-term welfare of the people in general. They're simply trying to make money and inspire money to be made, and sense gratification, beer, wine, meat. Just, I mean, I like to watch cooking shows sometimes, because sometimes I learn something that I can use. And I made, you know, but they're just, you can't really watch them much because they're so, all the meat and, you know, heart of a deer. It was like, oh my God. Just, I mean, it's just so degraded, so much sex. The kids at 13 are trying to have sex. You know, it's like they don't even know that sex is for children anymore. The leaders have cheated them. And so their so-called religion is part of that picture. But Prabhupada, when he came, he was just giving the basics. And if he would have come in the beginning, in, you know, just to the rich people with lots of money himself, it would have showed a whole different example. Someone who's not interested in material life, who comes as a so-called beggar, so-called poor person, so-called, Prabhupada said sometimes he was like an urchin, just wandering, you know. But he didn't give up his mission, and he established, just at the right place, just at the right time, a process of real religion, right? No nonsense, no sense gratification. Don't waste time. Learn to love Krishna. when he gave the instructions for New Vrindavan, the last thing he said, we should like live self-sufficiently, we should do this, we should do that. I actually have, here I think, I actually have his instructions for New Vrindavan. And the last thing he said was, and above all, love Krishna. So now we have these elaborate temples, this huge deity worship, and big festivals and gurus that we want to exalt to a position that they may not actually be ready to be exalted to. We have to be careful. Even in our Hare Krishna movement years ago, we had gurus. And everybody thought, oh, they're gurus, so they're on the same level as Prabhupada. I had people tell me that, oh, my guru's on the same level as Prabhupada. Like, what? You know, if we look into gurus are of different qualities, and they're certainly able to take us to higher levels of devotional service. But we have to be careful to not think that they're an Uttama Adhikari if they're not, you know, but they're great souls, certainly. But when so many of those gurus fell down, it was like a rude awakening. It's like, wait a minute. You mean just because someone has the title guru doesn't mean that they're an absolute pure devotee free from all material contamination? No, it doesn't necessarily. So I remember a story from Govinda Dasi. When Prabhupada first started, he had his deities. He had acquired these Radha Krishna deities. He had, and she said he had him on a chair. They were sitting on a chair by his bed, and she was sitting on the bed. This was years ago in San Francisco. And she said he was talking to her and her husband, and she kept putting her feet on the bottom of the chair. And he mildly kept telling her, don't put your feet there. And she kept unconsciously putting her feet there. And he finally just said, well, what can I do? And she said the flowers were, you know, like synthetic flowers. And the clothes were just pinned on the deities. My point is, it's not like now we go into the temple, there's elaborate deity worship, there's sparkling clothes, you know, silver plates. That does not make the devotion. We have to be careful that we don't lose our motive, our feeling behind our ritual in the temple. We want to still develop that love and that devotion, that surrender and that purity. In Hawaii, when we first started, it was an old little house in the country. And the altar was just some pictures, right? We didn't have deities in the beginning. There was a lot of devotion, a lot of thinking of Krishna and excitement and trying to do what Prabhupada wanted. Prabhupada was directly orchestrating things in those days to the people that were like Govinda Dasi and Gorsinder. Gorsinder had started that temple, and Govinda Dasi and Gorsinder was there. But it wasn't that we had this fancy elaborate deity worship, that was our devotion. We had nothing, just Gorney type pictures. I'd go and pick flowers outside in, you know, somebody's yard or on the street, roadside. The curtain was just a piece of wire across the room with some kind of cloth over it. Nothing fancy, not a real curtain. I'll tell you, honestly, even some of the things we used on the altar were used things from other people, like silver plated something that was used. That wasn't the devotion. The devotion was following the pure devotee in his mission. We didn't have saris, no saris. I remember one time Govindadasi got a donation from a store like Macy's, it was called Liberty House in Hawaii. And it was just like tablecloths and things like that. So we set out and made ourselves skirts and dresses from these tablecloths. We didn't have saris and fancy bindis and, the choli that was just perfect and nothing. We didn't even have tilak. We had stuff called Fuller's Earth. It was some kind of thing you get in the pharmacy and you add water to it, some kind of clay. And we would use that for tilak. And this is how the pure devotee spread Krishna consciousness and established ISKCON. So we want to make sure we're on the right path. It's not that, at home I don't have a pure silver plate to offer to Krishna. It's really not the most important thing. Of course, Prabhupada says in several places. So some businessman goes to Vrindavan and surrenders. And Prabhupada said on this one tape, so Krishna is thinking, where have you kept your money? It's like, okay, you've made all this money, you've given it to your family. You've come to Vrindavan with nothing and are doing bhajan. But what have you done with your money? That's your hard-earned wealth. Use it for me, And it's not that we don't want the temples and all the fanfare, but we want to be careful that we're using those things. For instance, I know people that cook for our deities here or have in the past. They're cooking for the deities. And they're bringing a big tiffin. And when they finish cooking, sometimes before it's even offered, they've filled up their tiffin to take home to their family. Is that a good standard? No. Used to be years ago in New Vrindavan that you could not take anything from an offering that you cooked. You could not take anything from an offering that you were the pujari offering. They did not want the contamination of me, mine, my senses in the offering. They were trying to encourage devotion. You're coming to cook for Krishna, cook for Krishna. And I've seen pujaris that have come that really were cooking for Krishna. They would prepare days ahead, whatever, something, gulab jamun or, something special. And then we have the pujaris that just go in and take whatever they can find, make halava every time, and it many times doesn't get eaten. And is make anything up, any recipe up. And these things are, to me, sad because there are, and most of you are Indian, there are preparations that are real. Palak paneer is a preparation. It's not that somebody just goes in and throws some spinach and maybe some curd. It's a preparation. There's spicing that goes in it. Dal is a preparation. Parathas are a preparation. But we have now many cooks that have no idea how to cook traditional things. You hear in the Krishna book, dal, rice, halava, puri, pakura, ladu, rasagula, sandesh, sweet rice. These are preparations during Krishna's time that Krishna likes. But unfortunately, sometimes the standard of a temple is just, I'll just make anything. I had an unfortunate it actually made me very upset. There was a new person cooking our milk sweets, and burfi is a very smooth, nice, generally light colored milk sweet that, if cooked properly, takes on a certain consistency. And what was there was almost black and full of chunks. It was in the right shape, but it was like, and it tasted good because it was sweet. And it was milk, but it wasn't burfi. It wasn't nice burfi. So I went to the person who was the pujari, and I said, you know who made this? And they gave me a name. And I said, we have a girl who used to make the very best burfi. I think I'll ask them if they mind if this girl comes and shows them how to make it. He said, oh, I think that's a good idea. I can video it, and then everyone can know. I said, that's a great idea. And me being a woman and him being a man, sometimes some men don't want to listen to what a woman says, which I'm not really used to. So I went on to say, and he said, but the devotees enjoyed it. And I said, yes, but we're not cooking for the devotees. And I said, Malati has said, and right there he started arguing with me, yelling at me basically, well, we don't care what anybody says. We only, what Prabhupada says in his books, that's all we follow. And I was trying to say something, he wouldn't let me. Anyway, it turned out to be terrible. I was very hurt, very offended, almost in tears, because he wouldn't let me talk. He just, but then I realized that, he's just not a very trained person, I guess. So still, back to the point, we want to keep the standard at the temple to be real things. We don't want people to make up a vegetable to offer to Krishna just because they don't know how to cook. The devotion, this whole system of deity worship is based on devotion and hearing from great personalities, offering things, washing Krishna's mouth, offering a wonderful plate of well-cooked, not burnt, not a hodgepodge of, sure. If that's all you can do, or if you're such a great devotee, look at Rupa Goswami. And the Goswamis, I was just listening to a lecture. They were offering their deities, just very, very simple stuff. They didn't have a kitchen to cook, and they were just offering natural things. At one point, when Govinda was first worshipped with Rupa Goswami, and he would offer clothes of just cloth and flowers and garlands of just leaves, the decorations, everything was very simple. And there was an explanation of what he would offer, just very, very, very simple stuff. But he was a pure devotee, and he was offering to Govinda, really, not just doing a service that he had to do because he was going to get paid if he did it. It's like we have to protect our devotional creeper. We can't water the weeds of whatever, lust, anger, greed, looking for position, for acknowledgement, we want to offer love, and we want to make things for Krishna in a loving way. I mean, we know Vidura, his wife, when Krishna came there, she was so frazzled that she offered him the banana peel instead of the banana, and he ate it. But are we in that position? Oh, okay, she did that, so here, Krishna, I don't have time. I want to go home and watch a football game. Here's a banana peel. I don't think so. I don't think that's what we're supposed to be doing. So it seems to me that the message here is that it's the important thing is the devotion, the intent behind the offering. But at the same time, if we are in a position to take the time to learn how to cook for the deities, how to actually dress the deities, what does Krishna want? What's pleasing to Krishna? You know, even during the kirtan, now there's always all this talk about kirtan, which is good. Prabhupada actually had presented certain basic things with kirtan and dancing, the Prabhupada step. You know, I mean, he did. And I know Jayadvaita, who may or may not be popular with certain people, you know, he's trying to give a basic of things Prabhupada said. So if we're a kirtan leader, which a lot of our children are, it's good that they hear how to actually, like the rules of devotion for kirtan, if they can find that information. We don't want our Hare Krishna movement to get off kilter. We don't want to start making up things. Sure, there's no hard and fast rules for chanting. But at the same time, if you have someone or many people from the past that were pure devotees that had, there's tunes. Prabhupada introduced certain tunes. I have someone who was a very well-known kirtan leader, but he knew the different tunes for the different artis and the different times of day. If we have that knowledge, which we do, then to bring it out and learn those things and add it to what we have, our spontaneous things, then that makes things better because we're following. I mean, he's talking about the Mahajans here and all those great devotees from the past, including Srila Prabhupada, their direction, their instructions, their example. You know, Prabhupada's kirtans, he led many kirtans. You listen to his kirtans. They are certain tunes. They have certain tempos. You know, we don't want to degrade our movement. So we don't want to be in the movement for materialistic reasons. We don't want to make this a materialistic religion. But at the same time, because we're using things, material things, look at Narottam Das Thakur. He started a new way of kirtan. It was beautiful. It moves the soul of people. You know, this, and our children that are into kirtan should be given guidance, and I hopefully will accept guidance. And not that it's a performance. It's not a, kirtan is engaging everyone in chanting the holy name. It's not a performance. Look at me. I can sing. Look at how much I can do this and scream and that. You know, it's like we want them to get it right so that they stay on the path of devotion. I was listening to Madhava yesterday, just happened to have a CD of his in the car, and I'd been listening to some lectures, so I just put that on, not knowing what it was. I just grabbed it and put it in. And I was really impressed with how traditional his singing was, and just simple but devotional. I have a son here, Abai, and he's very traditional in his singing. And I had Ajamil, who's a famous kirtaneer in our movement, come to me, and one time after a 24-hour kirtan, he said, you know, I think Abai is the best. He sings traditional. Some of this other stuff, you know, it's like, anyway, it is kirtan, so not to criticize anyone, but we want to be careful that we stay on the path. So I was listening again to Indradumna Swami's tapes about Govindaji, how he was found by Rupa Goswami, how Rupa Goswami worshipped him, and how the big temple of Govindaji was built, and how the deities, by some arrangement, were forced to move, and how the city of Jaipur was built to protect those deities. You know, there's a lot to our history that's bewildering and at the same time amazing. So he said that when Rupa Goswami went to Vrindavan, he was keeping 500 cows. 500 cows. Rupa Goswami had nothing, you know, living under a tree, but he was keeping 500 cows from the wealth, apparently from the wealth of his previous work. You know, we hear that he had used some for his brother and given to, you know, family or whatever. But I guess he kept some. And with that, he kept, because he was given an instruction by Lord Chaitanya to take care of the saintly people that were in Vrindavan. And Vrindavan was a very simple place in that time. If you remember, the Goswamis were the ones that resurrected the holy places, the Radhakund, Shamakund. You know, those places weren't prominent when they went there. And so he had these cows and he took care of the local devotees. And he had, when he found Govinda, he had built a very small temple, just a structure, a little structure made out of clay and mud and sticks and leaves. It was this great Hindu military conqueror that built the temple. He had promised the deity before the battle, if I win the battle and if I'm the victorious, I want to build you a great temple. And when he was victorious and came back and talked to Rupa Goswami said, no, thank you very much. That's okay. Govinda likes the nature. So here we see that these great devotees that actually have a personal relationship with the Lord live a very simple life, are dedicated in their service. Their business is preaching, most of them the writing. Rupa Goswami wrote such beautiful literature, Prabhupada wrote. But at the same time, to establish a method for the greater populace to be able to make progress in their devotional service, in their purity, and the purity of the society, this is what they've done. They've set a foundation of guidance, like the nectar of devotion, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Prabhupada translated that specifically for us to learn the attitude of devotion and the activities of devotion. Very important, that guidance. So Prabhupada, that's what he did. He established in Vrindavan, Krishna Balaram. And we want to keep that devotion pure. And we want to improve in our chanting so that someday all this haze like the haze surrounding the fires up in Saranagati, raining ash from the sky. That this haze of Maya and materialism is lifted so we can actually have devotion. That's really what we're after. So we want to simplify our life. We don't want to just accumulate and increase and get into the material society of sense gratification. We want to stay pure. Certainly we can build big temples. Certainly we can distribute so many books. But that purity of heart, that purity of intent needs to be our foundation. And that's the foundation Prabhupada established. And if we want to help the world, then sure, we build temples, we distribute books, we preach, we have festivals. Rupa Goswami, when he was taking care of the 500 cows and the devotees, when he had Govinda, he observed like 28 festivals a year. You know, the Janmashtami, the Holi, all these different festivals he observed. Narottam Das Thakur, he started the first Gaur Purnima festival. And he invited all the Vaishnavas from all over to come, Janavamata, and he took care of them to the utmost, their place, their travel, they had personal servants given to them by Narottam Das Thakur for their every need that they needed. Serving the devotees, so important. And here, honestly, I'm preaching to myself. These are things that we want. We want to follow in the footsteps with the attitude of these great souls. And this is, we're given so much opportunities. We're so fortunate. So our people are just as fortunate as they were when Prabhupada was here, because we have the books, we have the history, we have the letters, we have the devotees that Prabhupada gave certain direction to. And we want to take care of those devotees too. If you read the book that Malati and the Vaishnava ministry put out by Prabhupada's female disciples, there are so many I've never heard of. You know, to help them and take care of them. Some of them get into unusual situations where they're not around devotees, or, you know, that's an opportunity. If we have money, great, use it to please Krishna. Someone that served Prabhupada for 20 years and then falls away due to who knows what. Maybe politics within ISKCON itself, maybe just Maya. You know, I've seen over and over again, Krishna somehow or other gives them an opportunity to come back to the association of devotees. And I mean, it would be nice if someone who had a lot of money, we're trying to get land here in New Vrindavan. Fortunately, somehow or other, we're buying or have bought the property right behind the kitchen that belonged to the Roses. The original man who sold the first 100, leased the first 100 acres of New Vrindavan that became New Vrindavan. His daughter, Tasha Rose, just is selling us the property right next to the kitchen. And the plan is to build a assisted living for people in that situation. And there's getting to be a lot of us in that situation, one day after another. You know, someone can't walk anymore. Malati's planning to put a wheelchair ramp at her cabin, because she feels that someday not too far away, she will not be walking. we'll have to use a wheelchair, you know, I mean, so to help these devotees is also a good mission. All right, I think it is time for me to stop. So I hope that was okay. I do get off on a tangent, I realize that, but I hope it's okay and acceptable. So is everyone there still?
Thank you, Mataji, for a very knowledgeable class, and one got to know things from many different angles, and it's very, very helpful. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Good, thank you so much.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much for this nectar class and lots of Prabhupada memories, your personal experiences. We learned so much about New Vrindavan today. And so you did 3 verses today, right, Mataji?
I did.
Okay. Yeah. So for tomorrow we'll do 4. Yeah. And just now the Geeta Mataji spoke, right? So she is from Maryland, and we came for senior connection group, right? We are coming from visiting New Vrindavan, so she's one of them.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, so she's joining regularly nowadays, and from there we came back like 2-3 months now, and other also 4 devotees, they are joining every day, so seniors. So that's so nice, and your class is one of their attraction too.
My simple little class. Thank you for the encouragement. Yes, it's important. Sadhu Sangha, getting together with devotees and hearing about Krishna, is always beneficial.
Yes, Mata.
Thank
So
you, Mataji.
I would like to tell their name, like Geeta Mataji, Surinder Bhandari, Rekha, and Rita. So those 4 are from senior group. So
Wonderful.
yes,
Wonderful.
they love.
And do such nice preaching.
Yes, they love New Vrindavan so much.
Well, we are selling land also in the, some nice parcel, really nice parcels. We would like New Vrindavan community to grow. So when people retire, they can come here, and hopefully we'll have assisted living, and it's a good place to have some establishment, because the economy, we never know what'll happen in this world. And Prabhupada did want New Vrindavan for that reason. Farm community, self-sufficient farm community.
So, Mataji, is there a hospital close by?
Hospital close by, maybe 15 minutes.
Oh, okay. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mataji.
Yeah, we're far, but not far from everything.
Oh.
Speaking of hospitals, I do have a doctor's appointment at 9:30, and I have to leave here in not too long, maybe 15-20 minutes.
Right, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
Oh, thank you for allowing me to talk something.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Madanat Pranam to you. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for the wonderful class. Very so nice to hear from you. And also, I think we have to offer some prayers for, you were mentioning that some
Yes.
devotees are in situation. Before we end the call, we thought we'll just pray. And how you want us to pray, Mataji? Chant or?
Yes, that would be nice. I mean, the Saranagati community is an off-the-grid community near Vancouver, Canada. And a lot of the devotees have been there for 40, 50 years. My son himself has been there almost 20 years. He built a beautiful house. We don't know if it's there still. And he's got 3 kids and 1 on the way. And, it's very difficult making money there. So some of them, including the house that Mother Jamuna lived in, that Jamuna literally built herself with the help of some other people. we don't know which houses have been destroyed, and that displaces these people. And these are, some of them are young people with 3-4 kids. And, you know, we don't know whose houses have been destroyed, but we know that 10 out of 25 have been destroyed. And the fires, my son wrote me yesterday, they're unpredictable. It's not over yet. Originally, the fire brigade went in and saved all the houses. But that same night, like, the wind changed, and it was just, I have pictures of it. It's horrific. It's like the whole picture in front of you is just blazing fire. All the mountains, the hills, the trees, everything's on fire. And you just can't escape. And the smoke, you know, and when the wind changes, the direction of the fire changes, their sparks move and start on fire in another area. It's like a big demon attacking or something. So yeah, whatever prayers you can offer are needed, because it's not over yet. It's still going.
Yes, Mataji, I think unanimously we can chant maybe 3 times the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and then of course we'll do our personal prayers also.
Thank you. Thank
So I
you.
think we can chant all of us together and, you know, make sure that everybody is safe, especially their lives, health, everything is good. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Ram,
Hare
Hare
Ram,
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare
Hare
Ram,
Ram, Hare
Hare
Ram,
Ram,
Ram
Ram, Hare Hare,
Hare
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 Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare.
Hare
Hare
Ram,
Ram,
Hare
Hare
Ram,
Ram,
Ram
Ram
Ram.
Hare.
Thank you so much. It's such a nice community, and that's where Cookbook Jamuna and Dina Tarani built their house and lived for probably 20 years or more. It's such a nice community. So yes, thank you so much.
And also we know, you might know the Partha Prabhu and Uttama Mataji.
Partha
from
and
the-
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So
Ma'am.
they were here in Washington DC for temple opening, and
Yes.
they were with us. Like, we could chance to serve them for like 10 days. They were staying with us.
Nice.
So yeah, they were so nice. So yeah, so
They're part of the Grihasta ministry.
yes, Mataji, yes. Such nice devotees, yeah.
Yes, yes, there's a lot of nice devotees up there. My son's wife is from there. Girija and Ghosh Thakur are Prabhupada disciples that have been there, though, and she has 3 sisters and a brother. There's 5 of them, and all of them still live in Saranagati. They all own homes, and they all have 2 to 5 kids. So great part of the community is her family. So anyway, let's see what the outcome is. We're waiting to hear. All right,
Yes.
thank you so much for the association and the opportunity of doing some service.
Yes, Mataji. So nobody has
Thank
any
you, Mataji.
question? Yeah. We can end up the call here. Pancha kalapataruvyasya kripa sindhu eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti vaishnavanda ki jai. Namajar. Jai. Grantha Rashtramat Bhagavatam ki jai. Har Grace ki jai. Shri Mataji ki jai. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam.
Mataji, tomorrow's birth is 55.
Yeah. Yes, Mataji.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.